Hey, what's up everybody? It's RuTech, and today we will be talking about the 5 most common misconceptions about gaming PCs. When it comes to gaming computers, there's a lot of confusion, questions, and even hate, and I want to clear the air about the 5 biggest ones. I don't want to waste any more time, so let's dive straight in with the top 5 misconceptions, but before we do, I would really appreciate it if you checked out my channel. I post PC tech videos among other things. Also, if you have any comments or questions as the video goes along, be sure to drop a comment. If you like the video, drop a like. And if you enjoy the content that you're seeing, drop a sub, really helps out the channel. Alright, so number 5, they're not reliable and they're easy to break. This one I've heard a couple times. It's usually something along the lines of computers crash, or they're too fragile. Computers do crash, but that certainly doesn't mean you'll lose all of your data or something because of it. All a crash really means is that something went wrong with the running process, causing it to stop. This by no means will make you lose every bit of data on your drive though, that's not how it works. And yes, you guys are right if you think PCs are fragile, but that doesn't mean they'll break if you touch them. Guys, computers are built to be reliable. Manufacturers don't just put the most breakable, brittle materials into their devices. Of course you shouldn't be fidgeting around with computer internals unless you know what you're doing, but even at that, the chances of you breaking something by simply taking a look are slim to none. For example, at 14, I had zero experience with PC building and only knew what to do because I watched a handful of YouTube videos, and I was able to boot Windows on my first try. A lot of people make the comparison saying that they're just advanced Legos, and in a sense, that's really all it is. There's not really any ambiguity to PC building. There's only one way to do it, and if you know how to put one together, which isn't difficult to learn, then you won't have any problems. Even if you have shaky hands or are clumsy, the thing is, unless you're using excessive force, are banging on the parts with a hammer, or are dropping them, you'll be okay. Number 4, it's too difficult. Oh boy, this might be the most common one. It's too complicated. Well, that's unfortunate if you think so. PC building is actually very simple, and I know you've probably heard it a million times, but let me explain. Like I said earlier, I built my first PC in 8th grade, having knowledge that I gained only from watching YouTube videos. Let me simplify it. There's only 8 main parts to a PC, and that's including the case. Yep, just 8 that you need to assemble. Now at first glance, it may look like a complicated puzzle of electronics and wires, but seriously, all you need to do to make a functioning computer is to put 8 different pieces that work integrally in the right places, and voila, the deed is done. It's very uniform too. In, I would say, about 95% of all configurations, a piece goes in a specific place and only that place. It isn't really something that varies from PC to PC. Here's 3 pictures of 3 different PCs. Notice how they all look the same? Despite the fact that all 3 of them are using completely different versions of parts, they all have an extremely similar layout. Motherboard here, CPU here, graphics card here, etc. Once you build your first PC, every single one following that is a piece of cake. It's not something you should be scared of at all. Number 3, PC gamers have a cruddy game selection. This one is so far from the truth. Now consoles may have exclusives, but the statement that PC gamers have a smaller, cruddier game selection is very, very untrue. For starters, I would say over 95% of games that are published on console can also be found on PC. For example, when I switched over from console to PC, I didn't have to worry about not being able to play my games anymore. Most video games that you find either digitally or at GameStop for consoles can be found on online marketplaces for PC, whether it's on Steam, Origin, Epic Games Launcher, Battle, etc. On top of that, most new games when made by small or new developers are released on PC. This isn't because the devs are incapable of optimizing their games for consoles, but because it's so much harder to get a game on the PlayStation Store or Xbox Store when compared to Steam, and if said developer gets denied on Steam, then they can just set up a download on their own website. My point is, if you see a small underrated game that you'd really like to play, chances have it that you will not be able to play it on console. When Minecraft first came out in 2009, it was a PC only game and didn't belong to any game stores. It took an entire 3 years for it to expand over to console, and this is only one of the many examples. There are thousands of game developers, and unfortunately, if you're on console, you won't be able to be one of the people that get early access to the lesser known games. And the number 2 misconception, it's too hard to learn how to use a keyboard and mouse. At one point, I too was a console player and only really used a keyboard and mouse for Minecraft Java Edition on my old dusty computer. Anything competitive like Call of Duty, I would play on the console, period. Of course, at the time, I thought using a controller was the single best way to control movement in a game because it's literally a device made for gaming only, unlike a keyboard and mouse, which were made with the original intent of typing commands to a computer and a point-and-click interface. Well, after having been both a console and a PC gamer for a long time, I can happily say that I definitely prefer keyboard and mouse over a controller. Now yes, it does take time getting used to, but that really goes for everything. Using a mouse over a joystick gives you so much more control and feels 100 times more responsive. With the joystick, you're limited to only using your thumb on a small, roughly square inch area, but with the mouse, you get to use every single muscle from your wrist to your fingers and have a large area to do so, as you obviously have much more movement freedom using a mouse pad over a joystick. As for the keyboard, you have a ton of buttons, and with like 99% of games, you can remap the controls and fully customize the experience. What I'm getting at is that the keyboard and mouse feels a lot more professional and legit over a controller. Now, of course, that's just my opinion, but the fact of the matter is, learning and getting used to a PC setup is so worth it. Now, the number one misconception: they're extremely expensive. And yes, you shouldn't be surprised that this is my number one reason. As the guy who makes videos about guides on what parts you should buy for specific budgets for PC builds, this is the worst misconception in my opinion. Nowadays, you can get a solid 1080p machine that gets over 60 frames per second for a little over $400 if you're building it. The next gen consoles are rumored to cost $500, which, as we all know, is a pretty large amount of money. What I'm getting at is that running games at 1080p with high frame rates isn't going to cost you a fortune anymore. Nowadays, an RX 570 paired with the 1600 AF, 8GB of RAM, blah 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 for example, is more than enough for a competitive setup and will not cost you a fortune at all. Plus, you can absolutely customize it to fit your budget better. Let's say you're planning your build and you're trying to save $30 so your budget works out. Well, a quick swap in the storage department will do it. You may have a 1TB hard drive selected, which will cost you around $50. Switch that out for a 128GB SSD, and it'll save you around $30. Then you can just worry about getting that 1TB hard drive later down the road. And that's only one example of how you could save money with a PC build. The main point is, it's not deathly expensive to build a PC, and I mean a good PC. And if all that explaining isn't enough for you, I highly recommend you check out some of my budget PC build guides on my channel. And that's going to do it for what I believe to be the 5 biggest misconceptions when it comes to PC gaming. If you have anything you want to add, something you've experienced, or even if you disagree with me, drop a comment below. So yeah, that will do it for this video, guys. If you enjoyed the video, drop a like. Have any comments or questions, drop a comment below, and I will try to get back to you as soon as possible. And if you enjoy the content you're seeing, drop a sub. Also, I want to add that I am super thankful for 4,000 subscribers. It feels like it was just yesterday that I was thanking you guys for 3,000 subscribers. It has been a very fast experience, like everything's coming at me all at once. I'm super grateful. I don't want you guys to forget about that. But milestones, they're really not that big of a deal to me because every single one of you individually is important, not just when you guys are at a certain number. And I also want to mention that I just ordered parts for a PC makeover, PC build guide video. So expect to see some actual real videos and tutorials in August of me building a PC. I'm going to make it extra special for you guys, so be sure to stay tuned, stay subscribed, and be ready for these awesome videos that are coming out soon. So yeah, thanks for watching. Peace out.